What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, RAF ESPARZA, coming to you with another great installment of the Bullpen, a joint venture between Inside BJJ and the Grappling Hour. How are you guys feeling? Do you guys have any thoughts on the Craig Jones Invitational? I haven't found any on the internet, so it's been hard to figure out how you guys felt about it. I don't know if it was positive or negative. It's very difficult when you don't see anybody reacting to an event that nearly got more than 2.5 million views. But nonetheless, why don't we go to my friend Tim Freeman to see, Tim, were you able to find any opinions on the Craig Jones Invitational on the internet?
I'm trying to add up the scorecards still from all the yeah, I was able to find quite a few opinions on the internet about Craig Jones Invitational. Pro and con, lots of buzz, over 2 million views. That's pretty dope in and of itself. Very interesting weekend, Raf. It's great to be here with you. Can't wait to dig into what we got going on, man.
I mean, I think the makers of Craig Jones Invitational might have some pause. And I have to be honest, I don't know that we were even the biggest critics of it. We have notes from the production angle. We have notes from the fan angle. We have a lot of different angles to cover this from. But general thoughts, let's start with this. There were a number of draws. So we figured we would start with the biggest criticism of the event thus far in. At the Craig Jones Invitational, there were too many draws to count. So really, you have more success trying to figure out how many submissions. So I'm going to go over to you, Tim, to let us know, in the ballpark, how many submissions did we end up for the entire weekend with?
I think we had 32 matches, and of the 32 matches, we had 7 submissions in those matches. So not a ton of action. You know, I think people come to submission only style events to see submissions. So obviously I think that was a big deal. It's really interesting that it even came down to how it came down to with the draws, because I took the CJI2 rule set before the event and I threw it into ChatGPT and I'm like, dude, format this for me to where it makes sense. And it was still convoluted. I was like, I don't know how it's going to work if there's a bunch of draws, but yeah, man, it wasn't very exciting in the sense that I think they wanted it to be. I think it was dramatic because you had a draw and then you had a draw on top of the draws with the round scores, and then it defaults to like this kind of more esoteric rule that apparently was in the rule set but not in the contract, is what it sounded like. So now it's like, who is the winner? I don't know who the winner is. It's B team technically, right? But did New Wave won also?
We'll get to that in a minute. Let me start with this. I do want to address Egghead's note because, of course, he has the math. Less than 25% submission rate for CJI2. Okay, that does actually check out. That makes sense. And I think the one thing I want to bring up to everybody's attention is, in theory, submissions should be easy. In theory, we should see a bunch of submissions. When you do have high talent, they do get harder. That was a point that Mikey was pointing out in his debate last week. But it got me thinking over the weekend. I was like, how do we stack up compared to other sports? And I think that we're so hungry to see finishes, which usually means some kind of imbalance or superiority. And at its top, It's Gordon. But what people don't like seeing is defense. And yet, if you watch the Super Bowl, defense is a good portion of the show. It's just, it's not as exciting as scoring points. So we don't have this. So when I hear people talking about quintet being boring, what they mean is they want all gas, no brakes. But I actually think the impetus is on the production and that commentary team to drive that narrative of what's happening. And I thought BMAC was selling for his life. Like, he was trying to build the drama and he was doing what he could to get people interested. But I think the hard part is when you say they didn't get a submission, what you're doing is you're kind of selling out the athletes. And yeah, I mean, in some size instances, you're thinking, well, shouldn't Victor Hugo be able to submit everybody? He's just bigger than these people. And how is it that Mika is able to go on a monstrous run, or he's not getting submissions either? But then we have an appreciation for somebody like Dorian that you're like, man, mad respect to him. You don't get these storylines without the mismatches. And what people were suggesting was a straight wrestling duel 5 versus 5, but there's no narrative there to me. I think it's a worthy format, but that on day one was a struggle to get through. So we do need to argue on the draws, but I think we can all be in agreement the stalling calls were the biggest culprit. I think for something that needs to be fast moving, it was a great commercial for the PGF. I cannot tell you how many people were talking positively about something that sometimes they're in their fields where they think, there's too much ref involvement. And now we kind of saw why we put those rules in place there. I think we saw why that push of action at the PGF is worth the squeeze. So, Tim, one of the things you posed was, in your opinion, who was the winning team? Because it came down to legal ease, which, as we know, is the most exciting form of television for all grappling.
Well, in my opinion, I think the B team won.
Okay.
Because, one, they were declared the winner. And two, they didn't get handed the victory or a prize secondary, like a mystery guy came in at the last minute and did it. If there wasn't a mystery guy, then there wouldn't be any discussion about who even won. I think just straight looking at it, I think the B team won. I think you give it to them. I know it sucks for Gordon, and I know that there's some people that might disagree, but all in all, I think those guys took it.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that's where you were going to go on it. Can I propose a theory to you?
Yes.
So people were saying it was rigged, that Craig just gave something to his team. And in order for it to be rigged, you would have to not get submission. So that is kind of the goal. I hate draws more than anything. I don't love this exercise because sometimes for most competitions, they become an exercise in the athlete's ego, but the audience didn't win. So when you don't get a submission as an audience member, you kind of go, man, that was a little disappointing. And you're okay to say that. That's fine.
Yeah, sure.
Having said that, how amazing would it have been if Craig went back there, realized that they're all tied up, and said, shit, based on these ambiguous rules, it's hard to say. Why don't I just let my boys have the celebration party and we'll reverse course on Monday? Sounds good? All right, let them party. Because nobody's going to remember anything other than the photos, the vibes, the great moment that B team had. Because if you looked at New Wave winning, there would not have been a celebration. There would not have been anything. It would have been, thank you, deuces, great. I thought about this theory for a while, and I said, it's a very smart and funny theory. Until Craig came out and said, I didn't want to do it. The donor did. Which, by the way, is a great deal or no deal escape clause. Like, it wasn't me. It was some other mysterious guy that you'll never know about, who has infinite amount of money. He can just print new money like the government and give another $750K out of thin air. Like, must be nice. But, Tim, okay, where did you fall on the ruling, though? Because everybody seemed to become a legal scholar very quickly after this happened. And there were, admittedly, some awkward statements versus what they might have been doing in the referee and the rules meetings. So from your interpretation, what did you take away from this?
Okay, so my interpretation was that it went down like this, that that tertiary rule that they applied, which says that the athlete that wins the last round of the last match is his team is the winning team if there is a draw in all the matches and the scorecards are drawn. That was the way I understood it. However, it sounds like maybe the contract that the athlete signed did not have that language in it. However, I still think these athletes probably understood what they were getting into when they got into it. How could they not know that? But, maybe I'm giving them too much credit. I wouldn't have ponied up the extra $1 million. I think a better decision, and I don't know if they were up against the time constraint. I have no idea, but I don't even think Craig was there when this happened. Actually, word is he left right after his match, that he was gone. It would have been better if they would have just come out and said, we're going to sudden death. Like, you send your best guy out, we'll send our best guy out. They're going to fucking get after it until somebody gets a win. And then it's a clear cut, we won or they won. It's none of this, like, let's litigate it. This is, the hanging Chad, Gore versus Bush. This is ridiculous. It's got to be one way or the other. You can't have inconclusive endings. This is the perfect ending to this event. I said it. It's not deciding anything. This is the problem. It's like, what are we actually doing? We have 2 million eyeballs on this sport right now, on this promotion, on this gigantic event, and we don't even know how we're going to end it. We don't even know what the point of it is.
Can I just offer one small counterpoint here? It's small, because I think I agree with you. Some people were posting no time limit, and I go, oh, okay. I love those, but the small counterpoint is, Tim, it was 11 p.m. on a Sunday. You know what I'm saying? Like, we would have gotten riled up, but we would have had to push back the Riff Raff concert. Do you want to do that to the Riff Raff fans that came to the Thomas and Mack Center? I feel like that's not very nice or kind. So I feel like we need to address this. But largely my issue was it was almost too late to do anything else. And to me, okay, quintet rules have been, the last match has major implications. And I won't say this very heavily, but do you think there is something to be said about B team outplaying Danaher? Because they went down to their heavies. And it came down to Nicky Rod, who was going to be a better strategic play. And maybe New Wave would have been better off having Giancarlo close that out. Because if it really did come down to it, you need your show ponies, your ADCC champions, your people who have been under the lights and have thrived. You need them in that last slot. So when Danaher like had that look and that little like, what? He was surprised. And everybody goes, well, no, I mean, well, now that we're down to tiebreakers, who cares? To me, I was thinking out loud. I was like, oh shit. Did these dumb goons outplay the best rules player in the game, Tim?
I think they did. If you look at the way they presented their lineup, going out there with Wojcik first, who's really hard to beat. He's got a real tricky, weird guard, and he's constantly attacking. Mika's fantastic at jiu-jitsu, obviously, but Wojcik was able to draw him out. And I think what you're referring to is that Chin versus Bodoni match, like, which, Bodoni's a lot bigger than Joseph Chin, but Joseph Chin is a tactician. He's not easy to finish. He's got a very well-rounded game, and it's deep and unique in some spots at the same time, which is like very hard to find in the jiu-jitsu world. I think that set up, and maybe what Danaher thought is that Bodoni was going to run through Chin or run through whoever he faced, and then it would be Bodoni and Rodriguez in the finals. And then if Rodriguez was to win, he'd have to beat Bodoni and Griffith. I think that's what the thinking was, but perhaps they underestimated Chin. And Chin was able to draw it out, and then you have Rodriguez and Griffith. And look, Luke Griffith is great. He looked good, but, he's probably not going to get the sub on Nicky Rodriguez. So,
well, Nicky has beaten him in the past, I believe, and it was
yeah.
a risky endeavor. So yeah, he did take him to time, but at a critical venture where that last match, at least in the rules meeting, had been explained, hey, guess what? It's going to come down to that last match.
Yeah.
Whether it's written in the contract, that's one strategy at all. You almost have to take into consideration that some kind of tie could happen all the way through. So
yeah,
to me, it was like, before we even get to tiebreakers, just if you know it could be a theoretical last matchup as your last string, that's where I said, hey, respect to Damon and respect to Nicky Ryan. What a great strategy and smart. I mean, if you're going to go to anybody, you go to your star. And Nicky Rod looked like a star. Philippe Pena looked like a star. Sarah Galvo, Helena, those were stars this weekend. When people thought that crowd was dead, they brought them back to life. And I was so happy about that. So you do have to go off of that. And in my head, Giancarlo is a star. And yeah, he had that weird moment where did he tap, did he not tap? But I felt like he should have been the guy anchoring that team on that day. So we can go back and forth on that. But why don't we go and advance to our next topic? But I have to give you credit, Tim. DRAWMATIC is the funniest fucking brand that we've had to describe on the bullet points here. So I'm very, very pleased with that one. That definitely brought a giant smile to this very tired producer's brain. I do see a couple comments in here, though. I want to come to this, and it says, is PGF done for the year? No, next Wednesday is the conclusion of the PGF, so be there for that. Your boy will be there for it. There is more to talk about, and it says, who give a fuck what time it was? Fuck Riff Raff. Well, Raff is half of my name, so this is slightly alarming, and I actually think that's part of the reason I didn't get hired by the folks over at CGI. Yeah. They're like, well, Raff's already on. Oh, Rick Raff, not RAF ESPARZA. Oh my God. I didn't know that RAF ESPARZA had rapped. I thought that was weird. Okay, good. And it said, we almost have a team tie in the PGF regular season. We almost did. And Egg would have had to essentially resign in disgrace if he had gotten those numbers wrong. But fortunately, we avoided that. He did not have to.
In shame.
Resign.
BMAC hands him the resignation letter. He just has to sign it.
When he was on, I told him Egg would have had to give a press conference, and he would have said out loud, I'm so sorry. I have to resign. These numbers were not up to code, and somebody needs to take fault. Thus, I am handing in my letter of resignation. And Brandon would have just pushed it back at him and was like, sorry, dude, you're stuck doing it. That's actually your punishment.
Yeah. He'd be like, me and Keelan can't count.
Which, by the way, is the funniest way to claim, like, if only we could count, this would be way easier, but we can't. Donors. Let's get to this. Okay. The mystery donor was able to give New Wave $1 million after this all broke loose. So let's ask this. First to begin, who is the mystery zone donor here? And is it Zuck? Is it not Zuck? Who are these people here?
Yeah. Who knows, man? I thought, maybe it's Jeff Bezos trying to get in on the action. You rich guys all copy each other, Maybe it's Elon Musk. Maybe. I doubt it, but maybe. And then Zuck, I'm like, could be Zuck. He likes jujitsu. And then it came to me, duh. Ted DiBiase, $1 million man. But then I kind of thought, man, like, would DiBiase give the money away, though? He would kind of like promise the money and then take it back on a technicality later. Like, sorry, kid. He'd have Virgil come get the money back. I don't know who the mystery donor is, but in a way, it kind of pisses me off, to be honest with you. It's like, and I saw Kendall Rusine online talking about this, and I agree with her on this. It's like, dude, we don't have money to have more than 4 girls, and we can't pay them this, and we can't do that, and we can't do this, and sorry, guys, and oh man, your budget's so high, and oh this is oh no that, and sorry, and da 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 da. And then it's like, hey man, yeah, can you send me $1 million? We got to just make sure these guys are happy before they go home. And it's like, boom, they got it. And I think that's like, everyone thinks it's so cool. I think it's kind of like chicken shit to the people that were on your card, to be quite honest with you. It's great that 5 other guys did get $1 million. That's dope. If I'm on New Wave, I'm like, hell yeah. I'm not hating on anybody making money. I'm just saying, like, it plays both ways. Like, yeah, it kind of looks cool, and it's neat that you could like raise that kind of capital and that fast, but it also kind of looks bad on you guys, because out of one side of your mouth, you're saying we don't have money to pay all these other athletes, and then out of the other side, you're going like, look how much money we got to pay these guys to cover this problem we were having. So it's a mixed message, man. I feel like it was a great opportunity for CJI to like really put a stake in the ground, but they fumbled a little bit.
Okay. Let me point this out. So the UFC Fight Pass president, Stephen Tecchi, or Stefan Tecchi, I apologize. I don't know if it's correct either way. But he put up a post on his Instagram criticizing the $1 million payout that they had to do to New Wave, calling it a dumb tax. I mean, I think a lot of people would argue any tax is dumb. But then Craig Seth, said that $1 million is nothing to this donor. So now you have these 2 organizational heads who've been kind of going at each other. UFC BJJ versus CJI, Flow Grappling Associated now. It's very strange. I'm not sure what to make of it entirely. But what I can tell you is, when we talk about this donor and we talk about women's grappling, it is a leap of logic to try and figure out how they just didn't have money for the women. And yes, we should not look past the fact that, oh my goodness, $100K for 2 matches is very impressive. That is progress. It was weird that they were able to turn that back around within a day when there were no submissions, when the women's event was arguably the draw of the show and was put on at a terrible time slot for all things East Coast. So what I will say is this. It's not easy to explain. So when you try to figure out where did this money come from, did it come from the gate? Did it come from the merch? Did it come from partnerships or sponsorships that they acquired in the lead up or actually at CJI? It's hard to deduce, but it's a big jump in money that is not explained to the people. Thus, when you say you have a donor, it sounds like it wasn't a priority to them because they magically invented this extra money to have to save the event and give extra incentive to people who are already potentially going to make $200,000 each because they didn't have enough incentive. So that is something that I do think merits some criticism. And I would say this. I do think it's worth now using this as a launch point to continue hammering that home. And I have more on that later. But I will say this. Josh Nobody, any update on the PGF current injury list? What I can tell you is this. I don't think it's public yet, but there is a change coming. And the minute we can talk about it, we will. But for right now, we unfortunately cannot. So until they make the announcement, I am kind of hands tied on that one. And I do notice this. It says, so familiar and sad that Jits folk will find complaints about such an incredible event. See, that's the weird part. I enjoyed the event. I do have favorable feelings about Craig Jones Invitational, the event. What I do find is I think there is apt room for criticism as an appreciator for it. I think there are ways to improve a lot of what we saw. And I did see this, and it says, but that's where we're at now with the immediate feedback on the interwebs. We are super critical and a side effect of a growing sport. I'll do you one better. I think that there are people leading the campaigns against one another that are mostly looking out for their own interests. So I would always say, before you ever look at the criticism or take it under consideration, just do a logical check on why are they trying to put down another event. For us, we want all events to succeed because we don't necessarily have ownership in any of these things. Like, we love the PGF, but we're also on here regularly coming up with brainstorm solutions to try and make it better. That's where we come from. We go to these other events, we don't have any stake in them, but we're fans. I think that's the difference between people who start off their essays on video form by going, as you can see, Quintet is bad. As you can see, IBJJF, ergo is the... No, it does. None of this proves anything.
Yeah.
It's just options and choices. Do you like what you're watching? If so, root for that. If you don't like what you're watching, give feedback. But it should be noted that 2.5 million viewers is nearly identical to what they did last year. So while you're bitching, they didn't lose anybody. And now that they go behind a paywall, we won't see how those numbers increase, but it does bode well for a brand in this day and age in television that you have the same reach. So congratulations to them on that. Why don't we go to our next one, which is this, Tim. You were mentioning this off air. We talked a little bit about it. I had a lot of my friends asking me, I think something went wrong, Raf, don't you? Children, have you ever heard me say anything about professional wrestling in the world of jiu-jitsu? Huh. I wonder if that had anything to do with a performer who came in to fill in at the last minute to help with an event that's sometimes spectacle over athleticism for its main event so that they can put the attention back on the athleticism. Tim, let's start very bluntly. Was that a work, or otherwise in professional wrestling speak, as scripted or somewhat loosely agreed upon?
For sure, loosely agreed on. Maybe they went over it once or twice, 15 minutes in the back room. I doubt it, to be honest with you. If you thought that was a real double submission, you are a mark. That's just, you're marking out for Craig Jones and CJI. I knew immediately that that was not a real sub. Like, right out of the gate, you could tell. That was acting all the way. The commentary team did a great job with their reaction, and I thought the replay in slow motion kind of takes the bad acting out of it and makes it feel more dramatic, and it actually looks better in slow motion than it did in real time. But I definitely don't believe it. You could even see Craig kind of letting things pass and setting things up, and then he's like, okay, here it is, I'm going to get it. But yeah, I mean, a little disappointed in that, to be honest with you. I get why they did it, because Craig's got to do something, but damn, that was rough.
Wow, Josh Nobody. Wow. This is offensive that you would ever say that the world's greatest fighter is also not the world's greatest actor. How dare you, sir? Let me just say this. What did you expect? Last minute, the first time they had a real match at ADCC, Craig had gone out drinking and was very leisurely ready to do it when Mo asked him to fill in the absolute category and said, would you like to have Chael Sonnen? And he said, yeah, sure. Even drinking then, he put him away within seconds. So did you expect anything different this time? To me, that's why when they pitched this, I said, God bless Chael for stepping in. This is a terrible match. But you know what? Chael has star power. He's loaning his prestige to us. And guess what? He cut a hell of a promo right before, which is not even the biggest tip-off. Like, how, when you cut a promo that is all professional wrestling, stealing from Razor Ramon and many like him who came before him, the literal bad guy, literally like it's the NWO, telling us how trash we all are, and then goes into submission twice and goes to sleep. And then the graphic team, which this is the one thing I have to say that was A+ on their time. They said the second time they started, it was round 2 on the graphics. These are small details that may not tell you the full sleight of hand trick, but it shows that it was meant to be a spectacle, and clearly not a very long spectacle, and one that we almost seem to be suggesting that Gabby was going to get a crack at this piñata. Sure. Would have been fun. We didn't go that way. It was messy AF. And guess what? Craig even walked out like Jey Uso, which is stealing from pro wrestling. All of this. Oh no, this is very sad when somebody realizes it. Then I'm the ultimate mark, shaking my head. I'm so sorry, Bobby.
I love you, Bobby. Bobby's a homie. He's cool. But
Bobby,
yeah,
we
you
love you.
Out, dog.
You know what I mean? It is hard when you recognize you're a mark. It's similar in the PGF when somebody goes, "Am I a dunkable?"
I think I'm a dunkable.
No, couldn't be me. I couldn't be a dunkable. So yes, I think we did witness a work here, and I would tell you it was not what I had hoped for, but you had asked this. What was a better ending? Like, what else could we have proposed here, Tim?
I would have liked to see Craig have a grappling match against like maybe Anderson Silva or somebody like that if they could get him. Like if you're gonna actually get a guy, I get why they got Chael because he's a master promoter, and with 36 hours on the clock, like you got to do something. But man, they could have just done a show of hands in the audience and pulled somebody down and had Craig fight him. I think it would have been more entertaining from what, no shade on Chael. Like that's entertaining to me to see what Chael did, because Chael is a master at the craft of what he's doing. But I think that it kind of didn't play the same on the jiu-jitsu audience as it would on a professional wrestling audience. So why not just bring some scrubs down there and let Craig just run through them? Just run through like a whole section, rail some lines on the side in between rounds, and just fucking run through a bunch of dudes. That would have been dope.
Eric Medina chimed in with, they could have grabbed whoever won the Masters, IBJJF Absolute or whatever. That would have been cool.
Don't you have a pirate jiu-jitsu hotel to run?
No kidding, man. That is, God, what a callback here, Tim. The children don't even know that reference. Let me just bring this one out. And this is something that says, Craig versus Marcelo Garcia. Yeah, that would have cost money, though. Didn't he come out of retirement for one, and one was cool with their athletes competing? That's not a terrible suggestion. It definitely would have been more competitive. But I think part of the sweet spot for Craig was, who's competitive enough to be interesting, but not competitive enough he actually has to train? And I think Gable was that sweet spot. So you want somebody with big marquee name value, but if they were going to get Marcelo Garcia, the thought would have been get someone else to fight him that's way more invested. But a very good suggestion nonetheless.
They should have had Riff Raff fight him. That would have been dope. If they would have just had Riff Raff wrap his ass down to the pit. How awesome would have that been to see Craig just rip Riff Raff's leg off? He could have done the concert in a cane.
So let's go through this. Thoughts on how CGI 2 and all the strategic stalling makes the PGF rule set so entertaining. We did cover that a little bit earlier. It was a free advertisement for the PGF and rule sets that really do try to decrease stalling. But let me just make this statement out loud. I think I've said this in private, but I can say it in public. I think what we have witnessed is the stalling calls are not the friends of the athletes. They are the friends of the TV viewing audience. So what the sweet spot is trying to take out the power from the refs in a way that is an entertaining spectacle, but also drives the action. Because you saw with no interference here how boring it can be. So I think we really need to get them more aggressively calling stalling calls, and they were kind of doing it day 2. But at PGF, sometimes you look down the wrong way, you might get a stalling call.
Oh, yeah.
So,
it's like the penitentiary. Yeah, they're not playing.
But the difference is you're hearing more of the athletes complaining and maybe their teams, but not the viewing audience. I think the viewing audience is like, thank God you're doing this. And I feel like all organizations that try to find extra ways to incentivize action, I felt like they felt pretty good about themselves. So any idea is better than what we witnessed. That's fair. And it says maybe Craig could have went against last year's $1 million winner in Thai. Ooh, that also sounds expensive. And Ty was actually busy this week. He is fighting at 1FC for an MMA fight, I believe, if that is correct. So you can tell me if I'm wrong, if anything. So why don't we move on to the next one here, which is, all right, speaking of next, what does Craig do next, Tim? What does he do next? And where will there even be a Craig Jones Invitational Trace?
Man, I don't know is the answer, because I don't think you can do Craig Jones Invitational 3 without Craig Jones. And I don't know if Craig Jones can go away for 10 or 12 months and, you know, not be very active and then come back in a month and be like, hey, we're going to do CJI 3. Let's go. Maybe he can. Maybe it's a strategic move so he doesn't overexpose himself to the grappling audience. There's potential for that. By all accounts, it sounds like he just wants to go chill. I don't know what that means for him. I don't know what he's got going on personally. I think I'm not sure how old Craig is, but, you know, some of these guys have been competing for a decade now, you know, and as they start to get older, they start looking at other avenues, being in the gym all day training and watching their diet and taking lots of vitamins and supplements isn't necessarily what they want to do for the rest of their life. I think there could be a CJI 3. I think it has the numbers. I think it has the viewers. But without Craig, it's not going to happen. And I would say they can't have another debacle if they do pull it off. Like they got to get their shit together much, much tighter. Josh Nobody. I don't know if nobody knows, but no CJI until 2027. Yeah, what are we going to do? Alternate years now, CJI? Like once a year is, don't do that. Once a year is a challenge because, look, they made a mistake this time. Why did they make a mistake? They didn't have enough reps in with this team format, so they couldn't have the rules dialed in like they wanted. Well, you can't get the reps in when you do one show a year. So maybe don't change the format. Go back to the original formula. Go back to Coke Classic. Nobody wants new Coke.
I love that for this particular photo, Tim, you had the chief from Carmen Sandiego up there. So all I want to do as I talk about this is, listen up, gumshoes. You can solve the mystery of CJI, but only you. Carmen Sandiego is out there. Craig Sandiego is out there spending money frivolously. Your job is to use your geography knowledge to figure out what war zone he might be in next. Use the clues that we use from his social media and bring him to justice.
That was good, actually, Raph. That was very good.
I watched a lot of that show. I was obsessed with it. And you know, when you're a kid, like Nick Arcade, I wanted to go on and be on. It looked so cool for the time. It was amazing. And then I watched Carmen Sandiego and I go, this theme song's kicking. The chief is kicking. And what are you going to ask me about? I want to go on geography. No, hard pass. Not interested. Don't know where Brazil is. I am 5. Yeah. No, thank you. So when I saw other people my age going over and trying to put that on and they were very good at it, I was like, how the fuck do they know where that is?
Yeah, it made me feel dumb. It made me feel dumb to watch. Yeah, I agree. I would turn it. I'm like, ugh.
But then I also recognized I was watching PBS. So I called myself a nerd and was like, this is your fault. You don't know anything because you're watching real nerds do real work.
Okay, but hold on. Probably you were like me. I was watching PBS cartoons too because we were fucking broke and we didn't have cable TV. And so you had an antenna. And sometimes PBS was the only shit that had any kid stuff on at that time. And so you had to watch it. That's why we all watch Mr. Rogers.
Legitimately, the theme song, I think, got me in. Because at that time, for whatever reason, they were bringing back 50s doo-wop for young children. And we were eating it up like, that's dope. I want to go see Rockapella. They're the best. There's no other band that's better than them. Let me just kind of strum through some thoughts here, and then we'll kind of move on to, I think, the segment everybody wants to see. No CGI, not until 2027. No, definitely do it next year. You got to keep the momentum going. Once a year, I think, is a fair amount. Last year, Craig was telling me that he was thinking like, yeah, they're trying to offer more and more and more, 2 times a year max. I think right now he's at a space, if any space, of doing it once a year. And this is a generous thought because this dude, he's busy, man. Like, maybe he just wants to live his life and get out of this, because the comment section definitely proved that if this was the last one, he has apt reason to go away and get away from all of this. I contend it is still a vital part of the landscape for jiu-jitsu. The numbers are good. It's a unique event. It does have problems, and we were very, very clear on what those things were from day 1 to day 2. But day 2, it did clean up a lot, and I was very pleased about that. I still think this is the best shot at a full streaming distribution deal. I don't see other products gaining people's interest. Having said that, I think we can do things a little bit better, bring in that production a little bit more, a little tighter. I know it's good for concessions to keep things open, but starting at 6 p.m. and ending at midnight, it's a tall order. It's a lot. And granted, we go to UFC events where there's only 12 matches, but everybody loves when they get a knockout. And I got to be honest, I'm not even going to UFC events anymore because those ticket prices are ridiculous. You want to keep it affordable. You want to keep it low cost, because other sports have taken advantage of times when things are priced out of the regular everyday folks' price points. Why is the WWE charging more now? Because for years they made it affordable to go see their shows. I think front row used to be like $200 way back in the day. Now it's not even the case. You have to mortgage 2 houses to go to a WWE live show, but it's because they built the brand over the years. But I do think they have done it through blue collar fans, and that is who we're trying to appeal to. A lot of you guys were bitching that it was free. I don't know that you're fully the demo, because you want supporters that will show up no matter what. Saying that you weren't happy that it was free for 24 to 48 to 72 hours, you got it initially for free. If the UFC did that, you would go, oh, wait, the UFC is doing that now, because they're essentially giving it away as part of their package for a lower tier cost. It's what's happening, but you still have to pay for the UFC on Paramount Plus at $12 a month. And everybody realized it's better than paying a pay-per-view every single time. So I think you have to manage expectations with that. And yeah, I really do feel like they should sell the streaming rights. I really do. I think it helps everybody. Everybody gets better deals off of it. But Craig is pretty insisting on trying to keep it free for everybody, and that's a noble freaking venture. But when people are wondering now how the books are getting used, it's going to get trickier to do that, in my opinion. I see a note here from Travis that says, maybe this mysterious donor should put $1 million to PGF and we can see some real exciting action. Hey, I like that idea a lot, Travis. And you know who could use a pay bump? Your pre and post shows. Let's show photos of both the guys who do that. I think we would take that $1 million and do lots of great stuff. Like, there would be less graphic errors. The board would work all the time. It will be very transparent on the cocaine we blow it on. But yeah, we're open to that. I would say that. All right. I think it's time to get to the segment everybody wants. Tim, before we go any further, we're about to do a roast here of the Craig Jones Invitational. So how does this differ from what it is we were just talking about seconds ago?
You asking me?
Yeah. I'm asking you to differentiate like the analysis we did. Maybe people didn't see our roast of Kevin Sherrill. So what is the difference between that and what we're about to do?
Well, we're about to roast CJI2 as an event in and of itself. Probably say some funny, mean stuff about Craig Jones and crew. And it's a roast. So I'll say this right off the top: get the fuck over yourself. You got big sensitive feelings. Now's the time to put the show on mute. Come back when preview is the yellow topic, and then you don't have to hear us hurt your baby feelings. But in the meantime, I'm going to say some real mean shit, and most of you are going to laugh at it. And I just want you to know, Craig, I love you. Seth, I love you. Flo, Ben, all you guys, you're all great. I love everybody. Jiu-jitsu, save the world. Okay. I'm ready to bang.
All right. Do you want me to lead this one off?
Sure. However you want to do it, man. I'm down.
All right, let's do that. All right. I'm glad that he did that intro. So now if you've stayed on, this is at your own risk. Going in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the roast of the Craig Jones Invitational 2, the event you didn't love, but you sure won't complain about the engagement you're getting talking about it on social media. We're giving ourselves 3 to 4 minutes to discuss the event, which should be plenty of time to cover the 6 submissions that happened and still have time left over to complete our taxes. The event was a lot like sex with Craig Jones, full of hype, talks a good game, and you likely left with an STD. Speaking of which, I know a lot of you are concerned about the criticism of this event, asking, where do you get off? And yet none of you ever bothered to ask the question on how Craig raised all of this money for the event. Maybe you should have asked him, where does he get off? Because then you might find the anonymous donor. Yes, what the Craig Jones Invitational lacks in substance, they more than make up in the amount of substances they consume. And they didn't even wait till the after party. Craig Jones actually simulated snorting lines of cocaine before his super fight with Chael Sonnen, which was a shame because it definitely took longer to snort the coke than it did to finish Chael twice. A feat that not even John Jones could do sober. Now, Chael claims that he never tapped to Craig, but we have it on good authority that he merely replayed highlights from Craig Jones Invitational Day 1 in his head and voluntarily passed out due to boredom. And you got to hand it to Chael. In a week where there were some questionable taps, he really took matters into his own hands and said, I'll show you what not tapping looks like. Of course, Chael was only there to fill in for Gable Steveson, marking the first time that Chael has ever come to the aid of a black person. And Gable still intends to make his MMA debut in 2 weeks, which will be the 3rd time this month that Chael gets put down due to boredom. In terms of the actual event, the tournament came down to the only 2 teams you care about, B Team and New Wave. 2 teams that won't even be going by those names in the next 2 weeks. B Team won twice on Sunday by edging out a narrow judge's decision at the last minute, and again by forcing Gordon to get so mad he turns off his Instagram comments. And it's not the first time that somebody from B Team edged somebody out. Or that Gordon watched. And not since January 6, 2021 has Gordon Ryan been so worked up. Gordon told his followers to stand back and stand by. Gordon cited corruption as the reason he didn't participate in CJI himself, which is a lie since the word he was likely looking for was disruption, as into his tummy. And as for corruption, it's never really been a killer for Gordon, as he attended the presidential inauguration of Donald Trump, a man who's hung out with Jeffrey Epstein more times than Gordon has ADCC medals. And if that number makes Gordon the GOAT of grappling, does that not make Donald Trump the GOAT of hanging with sex traffickers? At the venue, nobody was more surprised by the way things turned out than John Danaher himself. And I haven't seen John Danaher look like that since the paternity test revealed he wasn't Helena's father. Ultimately, the anonymous donor decided to give both B Team and New Wave $1 million each, making the whole event kind of feel like a kid's soccer game. Sure, they ran around a lot, but nobody scored, and in the end, everybody was announced as a winner. And despite another $2.5 million given to the athletes and near identical views from the previous year, nobody left happy. Women athletes wondered where did this extra money came from, And they're merely asking for 1/25th of the amount of money Dana White owes casinos, allegedly. And yes, 100K was an incredible progress moment for women. That was immediately overshadowed somehow by men not winning and still getting $1 million because their feelings were hurt. Talk about who gets emotional. But that should be the story going forward. Honestly, because that's what it's going to take to get people to act. The anonymous donor and the event clearly didn't give women this money out of the kindness of their hearts. And maybe they had the money. Maybe that money came in later. Maybe it came in from the show. Who knows? But just know that they were able to increase the amount of money for the men because of pressure. So if you're really down for the women's cause here, you probably want to continue applying that pressure right now. And last thing, CJI. Your boy was almost hired to help out with interviews. Almost. Something about an Alex Wendling restraining order. I'm not really sure what that's about. But I'm not sure exactly what I was supposed to do backstage in regards to helping with the interviews. But let's just say I'm glad I didn't make lemon juice. Because, woo, your boy did a big one there. So, moral of the story here, people. We said they should do a pre-show. They did. Not with us. We said that we would cover it. They said there wouldn't be interviews. They did. Again, not with us. And we're more than open to working together, but let's stop giving credential blue balls. Just hire us or work with us or don't. Because I see the alternative here is being put on a Jumbotron eating popcorn, you dicks. I looked super fat doing that. I mean, it's very funny. I'm not going to lie. But if it's either work for us or don't work for us or put on the popcorn on the fucking Jumbotron, I can just say this. Good luck. We hope to see a Craig Jones Invitational 3. You actually put on a great event. But if anything, you did demonstrate with this ultimate tie, you kind of have to do a third one. And that's my time.
Nice work, Raf.
Thank you, sir.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very, very nice. And, you know, you put a wrinkle in on one of those jokes you shared with me earlier. And you didn't share the whole joke, or you punched it up a little because it really got me good, man.
I love this. This is just, I did see you eating popcorn. You looked great. That is fair, Travis. Thank you for that. That does make me feel good. We did sell some shirts from that, so I'm not going to lie. It was a good boy moment.
We
for
should
your boy
put
here.
that on a shirt. Like, just like Raf is not impressed. Just like side shot eating popcorn.
It's just, can I tell you one thing that's really stupid before you go, Tim? This is my favorite thing is my students have never been happier about something because two things. One, when we took a photo, a class photo, and at the end, when they were going to say cheese, they go, all right, guys, on 3, 1, 2, 3, popcorn. I was like, oh,
that's nice.
Oh, these kids are going to get murdered this week. And two, one of those said students made me the background on his cell phone. So I'm not even sure I can get this.
That's awesome.
But
yeah,
literally,
that's
me on his phone as his backdrop. Good beautiful. Lord. That's $1 million idea of a shirt. All right, Tim, the floor is now yours. Feel free to roast the Craig Jones Invitational 3.
Well, thank you very much, Raf. Outstanding job. I'm going to try to follow that. Listen, I want to say congratulations to the fans. Over 2 million views from the jiu-jitsu community. That's impressive. I'm not going to talk any shit about you guys. I'm just like you. I love jiu-jitsu. I support it with my time and with my money. Hats off to you. Congrats to Helena Cravar, the B team, New Wave. How you guys did that one. And all the athletes that participated, nice job. The production team, Michael C. Williams, Alex Wendling, even Hunkel Hanach dusted off the blazer and got the makeup on, got the hairline dialed in, and got up there on the main stage. PGF Commish, BMAC, I love you. Josh Palmer, great job. Mr. Red Belt documentary. Where the fuck is my documentary? I gave you $50. What the fuck, dude? Congratulations to Craig Jones. You took a break from your John McAfee World Destruction Tour to put on the world's greatest jiu-jitsu tournament without a main event or a conclusive ending or a Miata giveaway. That's not the formula. But I also want to say major congrats. This guy gets left out a lot. Craig's business partner, Seth. I got to tell you, dude, you are the perfect Jonah Hill to Craig's Leonardo DiCaprio. We could have called this CJI the Wolf of Draw Street. That's how damn good it was. Speaking of draws, let's get into this. Look, if they made a highlight reel of CGI 2, do you know what it would be? It would be 20 minutes of the judges tallying up the scores. You'd see Justin Flores pulling the paper tape out. You'd see Zach Maslany with his little accountant hat on. They look like the goons in Casino in the back room counting all the money as fast as they can, except they're not counting money. They're counting rounds. 75 of them. 75. There were so few. Look, Craig could have sold the streaming rights to PBS. That's how bad it was. He could have sold it to HBO after dark. All foreplay, no finish. It would have been the perfect teaser. And if you haven't watched it yet, don't. Wait for the Ken Burns documentary. I know he takes a long time. He won't take long on this. This is what it'll be. It'll be a still shot moving around, and you're going to think it's a photo, but it's not. It's a video of Uncle Chael's lifeless body laying on top of Craig the Ladyboy Killer for 13 seconds, and it's just panning around with the Ken Burns effect. Nice job. And speaking of Chael, let's take a moment to congratulate the consummate professional that Chael Sonnen is. Nice job. He not only saved the day by successfully rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, he also invented a new jiu-jitsu technique. Listen, I can smell it on BJJ fanatics already. We've heard of the ghost tap, a.k.a. the Brazilian tap. Don't get mad at me. I didn't name it. That's just what I was told. But I'm not talking about the Brazilian tap. I'm talking about the Brazilian nap. This guy didn't fake out getting choked once. He did it twice. How do I know this? This is how I know it. Chael's down to brawl for 5 rounds. He will bang and wrestle and get after it. But if you put that man in a triangle choke, he's tapping like a blind guy looking for the light switch at night. He's tapping. Ask Tito. Ask Anderson. Chael ain't taking the sleep. He's taking the tap. Get out of here with that bullshit. And we're not letting Craig off the hook either. This dude comes out to Riff Raff. Riff Raff. This guy's the love child of Theo Vaughn and Danny McBride. He looks like a villain that Gargamel created for the new Smurf movie. It was, I like I said before, I would have rather saw Craig fight him in the end, but Riff Raff, my God. My God. And what's with the intro? You alluded to it earlier. Craig snorting cocaine off of a bathroom toilet paper dispenser in the Thomas Mack Center in Las Vegas. I could see T-Mobile. Thomas Mack? That toilet paper dispenser's seen more ass than Bill Cosby at a roofie convention. R. Kelly at American Idol trials. Should I keep going? Jeff Epstein at the world's largest lapsick convention. A pack of dude wipes. I'm telling you, man, Craig, you got to raise your standards. Uncouth. More college students have pissed on that dispenser than in the toilet. And there you go, shoving it up your nose. And Craig, for real though, I want to tell you this. I actually did want to see you compete. Keep saying you're going to go away. The last time you competed was against Gabby Garcia, an intergender gimmick match 1 year ago. It's CJI won. And now you come in this year. I know your opponent pulled out. 2025. Chael comes in at the last minute. Seems like a great idea, but this is what it was really like. It was like fighting your drunk dad at the Memorial Day softball picnic. Yeah, he's going to talk shit and get in your face, but the second you put a hand on him, he's going to fold. Why softball us, Craig? Why the fucking softball, my man? Closing, I don't got no more jokes, but best of you, Craig. I love you guys, but I love talking shit about jiu-jitsu even more. Best wishes, Craig. Be well.
Well done, sir. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
You know, Tim, we got some notes, and it says, great roast, very mean and clever, which is honestly my sweet spot, I'd like to say. It says, in seriousness, you two would have been an upgrade. We've been saying that, yo. Like, we've been trying, bro. But listen, we know sometimes people come in with a certain creative direction, and maybe we don't fit that sometimes. That's absolutely a possibility. Having said that, I've seen what they've done, though. So, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think we're worse than that. I'll start with that. And there's a lot of credit to go around, though, because Alex Wendling was working her ass off out there. BMAC was working his ass off out there. My man Anthony Horta was working his ass off out there. A lot of really good talent was working. So I feel like we did see some stuff. And it says, I think Craig left without saying any words for a reason. You can figure out the reason. Yeah, possibly. But if he's saying he's out, he is what he is. So here's what I'm going to say, Tim. I think we're running so late on time. What we're going to do is we're just going to go past the fight here in a second. But let's just give a quick preview of what is coming up within the rest of the next week. Because essentially the next time we do a live show, we're doing a live show in person together. So I'm very excited about that. But give a preview of what is coming up in the near future here, Tim.
Well, a couple big things are coming up, Raf. As you know, we have Subversive Fight Club 3 is coming up on September. I can't see the date, but I believe it's the 5th. You can correct me if I am wrong, please. Or the 6th, maybe. It's coming up on the weekend here. I just can't see the graphic. I apologize.
The
but
5th,
make sure the 5th, 6th. There we go. Yeah, make sure you check that out. Look, Raf is the G behind Subversive. He does a fantastic job, and they're putting on great matches. And if you haven't watched a Subversive event yet, you're missing it. You really should check it out. This idea that's being thrown around of like, oh, the PGF doesn't have big names, or this event doesn't have the big names. Would you rather watch a movie with blockbuster actors that's a fucking turd? Or would you rather watch a movie that plays well, even if you don't know the name of every single dude in the movie? You're still going to remember that damn movie.
Tim, can I do you one better right now, though?
Yes.
Oh, no, this event doesn't have the big names that I know. We saw how that turned out last week.
Yeah.
Doesn't always mean it. Doesn't always mean good things. So I'm just letting you guys know. It's good to find new talent, give them a voice, give them a stage. And we got a nice mix of some folks, but this whole era of, I don't know that person, this is trash. Dude, you trashed everybody that was on the stage this weekend. And those are huge names. You may have the floor back, sir.
Yeah, exactly. Great point. Following up, Wednesday next week on the 10th, we have the PGF Season 8 playoffs and the culmination of the individual championship. It's going to be a great grappling event. You need to check that out. There's some big names in there. Jet Thompson, Landon Elmore. There's some big dogs that are going for the gold. And if you haven't watched these guys, you want to see guys get after it, you need to check out the PGF. And Raf and I are doing pre-shows for both of them. So shameless self-plug. Let's go. You like us? You like what we're doing? You think we're an upgrade? Then fucking support us. Let's go. I'm tired of this bullshit. Let's go. Give us your money. I could have used the British accent.
Listen, no, he means that to me. That was my little thing. Nobody has wanted me to be British now more than Egg. Egg has been on a rampage. I think he loves it, and I'm happy about that. But I just tell you, it's a dangerous thing to make me British. Making me British, I think, would have huge implications for the way this show goes. You're basically tuning in for the judgiest human being ever in existence. At least this guy's kind of fun. So yes, we have been addressing gallery all day long, but Tim, why don't we do this? Why don't we just go ahead and jump to letting people know where they can find you, sir? Because my man's got to get out to go teach a class right now. So Tim, tell the people where they can find you, sir.
You can find me at Inside BJJ on your favorite social media platforms. If you're going to be out in Vegas next week at PGF, come by and say hi. I can't wait to get out there and see you in person, Raf. I know it's going to be a great show. Got to get out for the draft and basically watched all of the seasons remotely. Been jumping on it. You know, we've been doing a pre-show every week for it. So I'm really stoked to see everybody and to see these guys get after it, man. These guys have been doing a great job this season.
Agreed. Tim, I appreciate you, sir. I'm going to let you get on out of here, and I'm going to close this up. But good roast, good analysis, and, man, I appreciate you so much. And it's going to be a huge, huge blast this week, sir.
Thank you, man.
All right, everybody. That'll do it for Tim. And for us, yes, I'm going to get out of here. But as Tim mentioned, Subversive is going down this weekend. The Friday night is going to be Subversive Fight Club live at the Ovation Square out in Long Beach, California. So go join me there. And then if you want to hang out the next day, we got some great kids action for Wild Style happening at the same location. So don't go anywhere for that one. You definitely want to be there to support the future generation of jiu-jitsu there. My thanks to everybody here, but I do want to leave you with this thought before we close out for full measure today. Yes, I've seen a lot of criticism on Craig Jones Invitational 3. We mentioned we're supporters, we're fans. We're super excited about that. My challenge to you is to find the way to constructively criticize this event. So if it's not your jam, probably admit that to yourself and say you're just not going to be that fan. You don't like Quintet. You don't like whatever it is. Promote whatever it is you got more. And for those of you who are promoting the women's grappling, I think it's a noble cause, and I think it's time for them to get their due. But as I mentioned in the little roast a little bit earlier, you got to keep that pressure on. But do it in a way that is better than just saying, you dicks, because it seems a lot of this has happened through generous donations. So make better arguments, and I think you might see some turns here. But let's definitely be supportive to the women who have been doing great jobs, and this incredible weekend were great. So I want to say that, and I want to say thank you to everybody who's been supporting us. We've had a great, great run the past few months. We've broken numbers that I didn't expect us to break. So my thanks to you guys, but we're not going anywhere. We have so much more to do, and we love and appreciate every one of you guys who gives us love. I got so much great appreciation out live this weekend at the Craig Jones Invitational. So check us out for our preview show later this week. That'll be on Friday for the upcoming Subversive event. And then next week, live before the PGF finale, your boy Tim Freeman, your boy RAF ESPARZA, we will be previewing that, and we will have a post show after that night of action. So we're glad to have you guys joining us. We love you guys. We'll see you back very soon. But until then, it's been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats.